Okay, welcome back. We're doing Unit 1, ao6, distinction level. Now, obviously, because it's distinction level, what is required from you is a lot more work. Remember, all the way through your OCR Nationals, particularly when it comes to doing this particular section, you need to print screen and or print off the work you've done. What I would suggest is, when you're at distinction level, it'd be a very good idea, for example, when you have your query you've completed and it looks like this, that you go to File, you go to Print, you print it off, and you then handwrite on it, explaining very clearly what you have done. Okay, today, so what we're going to do now for distinction level, which is A star, A grade GCSE equivalency, is we are going to create the query again. So let's just remind you how we did it. Create, query design, add, close. This is a non-relational database. We're just using one table. So double click. I'm going to move this down. Ooh, move that down first, and then left click, drag it down. For this particular query, because we're going to do a query that's going to link to address labels rather than a fixed report like the last one, what we're going to do is we need to have the title, first name, all the address details. But the one thing we don't need is juicing delivery, event planning, and complaint. Okay, we still want to see the criteria here, so we're going to put yes in criteria for complaint. And because it's the distinction query that we're doing, we need to create a query with more than one search criteria, sorting on one field. So let's use complaint, and let's use what criteria should we use? Let us use juicing delivery. No. And when you run that, you'll see the effect. It looked like that. We're not showing the fact that it's the actual heading here doesn't display the fact that it's got a complaint or the other criterion, but it searches by it. So let's go back to design view. Let's move this up a bit. I'm sure we become past experts at access after a while. So what we've done is create a query with two search criteria. Now we need to sort on one field like we did for merit criteria. So I'm going to sort by surname and do it in A to Z, so ascending. Right, so now we've got the basis of a query that looks like that. We've got the title, the first name, the last name, house number, road details. You may want to move these up because obviously this is going to replicate on the address details. Okay, so we've got everything we would need to send out a list to someone. And just to check that our query is matching the actual criteria, we can go back to here and just momentarily go to complaint and go to juice and delivery, then run it again, and you'll see at the end here it matches up. Now this field here, that's fine because that's waiting for you to type that in, so that's no problem. Let's go back to view, let's get rid of the complaint, and let's get rid of juice and delivery. We're just using them for the criteria for the search. So what we're going to do now for the distinction level distinction level OCR Nationals, Freudian slip, Unit 1 ao6, is we are going to now go through the process of creating a set of address labels based upon this data, which is produced by the query being run, which is that. So what we're going to do is go to create, and we are then going to go to labels. Now before we do that, as is always the case with Microsoft, because it assumes you are a moron, it thinks that you need to be reminded of absolutely everything. So, rather handy, let's click on yes. I'm going to name this as complaints with address. Then I'm going to click on OK. Now, we're straight onto Label Wizard. Now again, this has got nothing to do with anyone with a pointy hat. We're going to choose Avery, which is like a manufacturer of labels. I'm not really sure of the other ones, to be honest, but I know Avery. And what that will produce is a label of a certain size. And if you notice, you can click down the list, there's thousands of them here, but just use English unit of measure, Avery manufacturer, because that's the standard one. Click on next. I want the font to be in Calibri because Mrs. Thomas has said that we should be using all our documents in Calibri, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. Font size I'm going to put in 12 to make it slightly bigger, and I don't want it underlined or in italics, and if you notice it looks like that, it gives you a view of what it looks like. So what we're then going to do is add in some details, how we want it to look, how we want it to look on the label. So we click on this arrow here to put them onto the label. So title, then first name, then surname. We then want to press enter because we want to get it onto the next row. Then we want to type in house number, comma, road, town, full stop, enter, then postcode. We don't need to have store. To be honest with you, I don't even know why I left that on there. That was a mistake, so don't fall into that trap, but just leave it at that. That's fine. You can sort your labels by one or more fields. We've already sorted it, so we don't need to do that. Complaints labels with address, what we're going to call this report. You can see the labels as they look printed, or you can go and modify the label design. For example, if you had a company logo or something, generally speaking, you wouldn't bother. You would just have a white label that would print onto it, and it should end up looking something around about like that. And the idea is these would then print out. As you can see, I could have put a comma after the road name, but you get the idea of what it looks like. There could have been more spaced, I suppose. And then all you would do is print these out on the sheet, and they would be sticky backed, and you could just stick them onto a letter. So what we've done there is we've produced a set of labels based upon a query we've done on our database with more than one search criteria, sorting on at least one field. The other report we did already, so you'd know how to do that from merit criteria. This is in different formats, and it displays the data that we've done well. You may want to go back and redo the labels so it looks a bit nicer. For example, you may want to put a space in between the title and the first name and the surname, and maybe a comma there, but you can go back and do that. I think the essential thing is you know what the distinction criteria is so that you can actually reach the distinction criteria. So what you need to do now, of course, is as you do all the way through with OCR Nationals, you need to print off your query for complaints with address. You need to print off your labels that you've created based on the query you've done, and on both the labels and the query that you've printed off, you need to handwrite on and explain what you've done and why you've done it. Remember also, with the tables detail you've done, it would be a very good idea if you print off your database showing the editing, the adding, and the deleting to your database table. That concludes Unit 1 ao6 for OCR Nationals, the database section. Thing that you need to make sure that you've done is to print out the evidence, to make sure you've done a heading sheet on a Word document, and to make sure that that is clearly then stapled to your printouts. If you have any questions, please ask your teacher.